there, Mr. Reddit here. Welcome back to another episode of r/entitled Parent Stories. Our first story we'll be reading today, You're Blocking the Drive-Thru. After that, Am I Wearing an Orange Apron? And after that, No Changes Can Be Made Without the Account Holder. Now for every thumbs up this video gets, one Karen does not get any McDonald's. But I'm hungry! So please smash that like button. And if you're new, subscribe and turn on notifications for new stories from Reddit every single day. You're blocking the drive-thru. This happened earlier today. I drive a cement mixer and was just getting done pouring a drive-thru for a new Chick-fil-A going up in the area. The drive-thru is fresh and wet cement. There are construction fences all around, but the main building structure is completed. The fences all say, "Stop, construction staff only," except for one that has a Chick-fil-A coming soon sign. I'm washing down the truck when I hear loud honking, not thinking anything of it as I'm in a shopping center. I keep washing the inside of the truck down. I then hear more honking and look over to the front to see a Karen, entitled Mom, with her head out of the window. Full Karen haircut, then screaming, "Move out of the way! You're blocking the drive-thru!" I see she has two empty car seats in the back and a sticker in her window saying "Baby's on board." I'm glad her kids weren't in the car when this happened. I'm not a fan of her language. I came down off the ladder to go and explain that it's not open yet. As I walk towards the car, she starts moving her car closer to me. She's now about 2 feet from the front of my truck. My truck is back to the building. I keep thinking, how exactly does she expect me to get out? As I get to her window, I let her know nicely that Chick-fil-A location here is not open yet, and I inform her that she will need to move back so I can move my truck from the fenced-off area. Entitled Mom is having none of it. She is adamant that I move my truck out of the way so she can go through the drive-thru. Well, I tried, I thought. I asked her to move her car back so I can move my truck out of the fenced area. Once again, she refused to comply and started beeping her horn again. I've had it. My truck horn, for those of you who don't know what one sounds like, is very loud. If you're too close, they can scare you and even give you a ringing in your ears. As she was refusing to move and constantly honking her horn, I decided to show her mine. Honk, honk! And I started to move forward. Entitled Mom moved her car back quickly. She must not have checked her mirrors or blind spot because she backed up into a stop sign that was about 75 feet away. Of course, Entitled Mom got out and came over to start blaming me for her own actions. I forced her to back up into the sign. I am 100% at fault for her car damage, and I rushed her car so she had to avoid me by backing up as fast as she could. I loved this one. Entitled Mom called the police soon after. The site foreman saw the entire event, but he doesn't speak much English and likely already had to deal with various people trying to get into his site, so he just sat back and watched until the police arrived. We each told our stories, and of course, Entitled Mom made hers sound like it was a life or death situation where she was a kind woman just trying to make it to the new Chick-fil-A for lunch, and I was blocking it just to be cruel to her for no reason of her own. That without warning, I charged her vehicle and forced her to rush back and into the stop sign. The officer came over and asked if it was true. I replied, "No, sir. I have a dash cam with audio. You can see it if you'd like to on a computer." Luckily for me, our foreman offered his laptop. Entitled Mom's story fell apart quickly. The officer's face turned to a frown that I swear could have made the Pope feel guilty. He walked over to her, went straight to his handcuffs, and began to read her rights to her. Entitled Mom was charged with obstruction of justice, reckless driving, and misuse of 911. As she was being placed in the back of the police charger, I saw a man coming over with the two-kid stroller that had two babies riding in it. The officer explained the situation to him, and he honestly didn't look surprised. He seemed to just nod and walked quietly over to the car, took pictures, and unloaded his kids with the stroller and left. I feel bad that he had to go through that, but I'm under the impression that it wasn't the first time she has done something like this. I didn't press charges, but I reported everything to my company for their discretion to. I feel like I've run into more and more of these people since all of this lockdown began. Just info, my dash cam isn't cheap. It's built into the truck and has a back and front camera with a microphone that activates when the parking brake is set. When driving the truck, it is pretty loud, and that microphone wouldn't pick up anything but engine noise, which is why it's activated when parked. Speaking of drive-thrus, what was the last drive-thru you went through? Please let us know. McDonald's 3 days ago. Yes. Am I wearing an orange apron? I'm a disabled, overweight, and scary-looking lady. I'm into wood art and generally doing do-it-yourself projects at home in Scotland. I'm also a British Army veteran. Due to a back injury I sustained in the military, I can't walk more than a few meters, so I get around on a mobility scooter, complete with Armed Forces veteran stickers on it, front and back. I'm proud to have served. My localish big box do-it-yourself store famously wears orange. I also believe this company is owned by the same folks that own a US big box store that famously wears orange. I go fairly often enough that I know where many things are. Dressed in jeans, a floral print shop, and slip-on shoes, no orange anywhere. I was down the electrical supplies aisle looking for just the right light switches and sockets for the remodel I'm doing in my long hallway at home. I pick one up every now and then to match with the color swatch I have brought with me to see how they look. Most of them I put directly back on the hook I picked it out from, and the others go in this basket on the footplate of my scooter. Also in the aisle is an old man. I'd say he's probably in his 80s. He's looking at the shelves, but seemingly rather confused. Being nice, I ask him if he's okay. That's mistake number 1. He tells me he's looking for an adapter so he can plug in his electric toothbrush to charge. I know exactly what he needs and show him exactly where they are. Mistake number 2. He smiles and gives me a grateful "thank you," and off he goes happily with his adapter in hand to the tills. I feel good. I've helped someone out. So, I go back to my own shopping, or at least I try to. Excuse me. I turn to see a young man with a handful of different switches. Which of these should I use for an internal switch for an external light? I look as I'm feeling chuffed with being able to help. Mistake number 3. I point to one that has a light on it so you can see when the switch is on. I'd probably use that one, so you know if the light is on or off if you can't see the light itself. He smiles happily, dumps all the other switches on a shelf, and starts looking at other items on the shelves. So I go back to my own shopping, or at least I try to. Again, enter Karen. Excuse me? Mistake 4. Yes, I reply. Where do I find that stuff to put on walls to fix a hole? Me. It's down the other end of the store, somewhere near the painting supplies, somewhere near the tills. Yes, but where? And which shelf? Not sure. Just take a look down there. A member of staff might be able to help better. Karen. I need you to show me. Sorry, just look down there. I'm about to pay for my shopping. But you need to show me. I don't know the right stuff. Me. Look down there. There's a big banner by the right aisle. There may be someone there who works here. But you work here. It's your job to help customers. Show me where it is and what I need. Me, getting annoyed now. It's not my job. I don't work here. Am I wearing an orange apron? Ask someone wearing an orange apron. They will help you. I start trying to roll my scooter forwards towards the tills. Karen, faster than a speeding bullet, steps directly in my path only an inch or two in front of me. Now, these scooters are heavy and solid and won't take damage from hitting an ankle. There was absolutely nothing I could do to stop quickly enough. Karen shrieks, "You hit my leg! You tried to run me down! Ow!" And the tears flow. Her shriek alerted a couple of staff members who come running. "She ran me down. I want the manager. I want police. I want an ambulance. I want her fired and arrested." Then a mature-looking man in a suit with a large orange badge with his name and the word manager on it comes running up, also alerted by the shriek and shouting. He, manager, asks what happened. Karen. "Your assistant in the lazy cripple chair?" "Yes, really." "Tried to hurt me. I want her arrested and fired, and I'll sue the store for my injuries." Manager. "What assistant? This lady doesn't work here." "Yes, she does, and she tried to run me down. My ankle is probably broken." Note, she's still standing, stomping around, shouting, and generally not behaving like someone with a broken ankle. Maybe a spoiled toddler though. Me. "She asked me where something was. I told her where to look. She got demanding and started behaving like a spoiled kid, and then deliberately stepped in front of me when I went to leave. No way I could stop in time." "Liar! You do work here. I saw you helping 2 people. Him!" Pointing at the young man who stopped to watch the commotion. Me. "Yes, I helped, out of the goodness of my heart because I'm a nice person. That doesn't mean I work here." Young man. "Yeah, she was nice enough to help me. I asked her because I saw her helping out an old bloke. I knew she didn't work here. Manager. Yeah, she doesn't. Let's go back to the office and talk about this. Then we'll see what needs to be done. Karen. And you'll call the police and an ambulance and fire her. So off we go to the office. Karen remembers her broken ankle and starts putting on a deliberate limp on the wrong leg, moaning all the way to the office about her broken ankle. In the office, the manager invites Karen to sit. I'm barely in the office as my scooter doesn't have the turning circle to get further in. Manager. Let's start with the CCTV and see what happened. He turns the CCTV monitor around so we can all see it. He presses some buttons and runs the video back to where I ride into the aisle. I'm seen looking at products. I'm seen talking to the old man. I'm seen taking him to a shelf and passing an adapter to him. I'm seen talking to the young man and pointing at a product in his hands. I'm seen talking to Karen and pointing down the store. She's seen looking angry, with fists clenched, talking at me. I'm seen moving off. She is seen rushing past me and deliberately stepping in my path where I obviously don't have time to stop. Just so you know, I'm a retired police officer. Do you really want the police and an ambulance? Your ankle is clearly not broken, and it's clear what really happened. Do you really want to get charged for wasting police time? They do that these days, as the police are short on manpower and won't thank you for calling them for what is clearly your own fault. They may even charge you with a serious crime with what I and my staff heard. Or will you just leave the store and not come back? But, manager, really? Karen wilted. She stands and with no sign of a limp walks out with a member of staff escorting her meekly out. I was thanked for my patience and handed a gift card for your trouble, and so you're not putting off using our store. I paid for my wares using my gift card, which covered the whole cost, plus some more credit remaining on the card for my next visit. I may not help anyone next time though. To clarify a couple of points. Firstly, yep, I think I'm scarily ugly, but only physically. I know this because I have a mirror. Halloween has nothing on me. Unfortunately, I need to look at myself when I brush my hair or put my makeup on. Otherwise, I'd ban mirrors from my home. Inside though, I think I have a good soul. I'm not always perfect, not always kind. I've learned that sometimes kindness needs to be tempered with a reality strike or unhappy truth, and certainly not always right. I do try to be decent to people though, just don't mistake my kindness as a weakness. Secondly, apparently the UK big box store that famously wears orange is not the same company as the US big box store that famously wears orange. My mistake. Maybe I should have researched that first. Still, I suppose it's an understandable error when you look at the two companies' styles. Thirdly, in reality, I will still be helpful when I can, and if the person asking for help is respectful, polite, and deserving of kindness. I'm naturally a nice person, in my humble opinion. I've tried acting nasty, but my friend always laughs at me. I'm not very good at it. I'll stick to being the genuine me. Speaking of do-it-yourself projects, have you ever done any do-it-yourself projects? And if so, what kinds? Please let us know. I'm getting ready to paint my cabinets. They're going to look marvelous. No changes can be made without the account holder. A recent story reminded me of this act of malicious compliance by a family member. This family member's spouse was involved in an accident. They were in ICU for months and would face permanent disability upon retiring home. They didn't want to leave their home. It was close to the best hospital in the region, and it was their forever home, so plans began to renovate it for accessibility. In addition to the renovations, a wheelchair van was going to be needed along with other medical equipment for home use. As she worked on all of this, it was clear that large expenditures were going to be needed and it was going to take time to draw money out of long-term savings and retirement accounts, so she called the credit card companies to get their limit increased. Sadly, before the renovations were complete, her spouse passed away after almost 6 months of hospitalization and therapy. Now, attention turned to final arrangements. The couple had always been very frugal and maintained nearly perfect credit. All cards were being paid on time, and despite carrying a balance on some cards from the construction, demolition had already started, so renovations had to continue, but at a slower pace. Money was now coming in from those long-term savings. The problem is, one major credit card company refused to work with her. She tried to access the account and was told, "Sorry, I have to speak to the account holder." She explained that her spouse had passed away and she was wanting to pay what was left on the card. She also explained that she was an account holder. Evil Bank stated that she was not on the account and she was merely a card holder and she had no rights to the account. The person on the phone explained that her husband opened the account without her and just gave her the card. She just didn't understand how credit cards worked. This was a lie. The couple had always been joint account holders on everything since they were first married for exactly this reason. They had done extensive estate planning and made sure that all their assets were protected in trusts should the worst occur. They knew their kids would be cared for and their partner would be able to access everything. Also, she ran the couple's business for over a decade, navigating a sea of regulations, insurance company billing, and payroll, finances, and taxes. Needless to say, she did not enjoy being condescended to. Unfortunately, Evil Bank would not budge. They would not allow any access to the account for any reason, but for some reason, they didn't cancel the card after finding out the sole account holder had passed away. This back and forth went on for weeks with multiple calls to the Evil Bank and trying to escalate the issue to supervisors to address the state of the account. In a final attempt to show Evil Bank that they were hurting themselves by this. So, I'm unable to access any part of the account, even to make a payment? Evil Bank. That's right. So, the account is going to be closed? No, only the account holder can do that. Even though the account holder has passed away? Only the account holder, ma'am. So what does that mean for card holders and being able to charge on the account? Only the account holder can deactivate a card or modify the account. So what happens if a card holder uses their card? They can continue to use the card until the account holder tells us otherwise. The deceased account holder? Yes, I can't help you with anything else. You need to put the account holder on the phone if you want to change anything or make a payment. No, that's fine. She broke down crying immediately after, but decided that they set the rules, so she would play by them. All the final expenses, medical bills, and as much construction cost as possible was put onto that credit card. She maxed it out and then let it sit until the credit card company started calling for payment. I'm sorry, per your policy, I'm just the card holder and I'm not responsible for any balance. Ma'am, this balance needs to be paid or it will affect your credit. It better not, I'm not on the account. This is an illegal collections call and I will be reporting it to the FTC and the Attorneys General in your home state and mine. I still have his number on speed dial. You can make your case to the court. She was used to getting medical insurance companies to pay claims for the last decade or so. You didn't want to play hardball with her. Remember how all the assets were in trusts? On paper, her partner had no assets to place a lien on. All the cash in the joint checking account had been used to pay expenses for the last several months, and withdrawals from long-term savings were sent to her account, not the joint account. They had agreed to move all exposed assets shortly after her partner regained consciousness, fearing the worst. Plus, all the income from the business had been brought home in her name for more than a decade, so she would actually get some kind of social security payment when she got older. So not only did his estate have no assets to go after, he didn't have an income for the last decade. Evil Bank was left with a maxed out credit card and no assets in the estate they could file against for payment. The handful of other credit card companies worked with her to raise limits temporarily or remove daily spending caps for large expenditures, and they were all paid without a single missed, late, or partial payment. Evil Bank had to eat a 5-figure loss, all because they decided the wife didn't deserve to be on the account from day one. She had every intention to pay every bill and expense. She has never been one to try to scam or cheat anyone. She gave Evil Bank every chance to accept money for the bill. They repeatedly refused to acknowledge her as a spouse, but she sure liked the irony of the only company that refused to acknowledge the death of her spouse ended up paying for the funeral expenses. Yesterday, I tried to keep some kids safe on a mountain bike trail. Then the mom threatened to knock me flat. I was out at my local mountain bike trail center yesterday. It was a Sunday, dry, nice day. Lots of families out. There's a run, maybe about 30 meters, consisting of 4 or 5 berms, tight turns with high banks, and then a jump. It's a really good jump for practicing on, so I'm doing little loops here. There was a woman standing on top of the first berm, 30 meters away from the jump. This is mildly important information. Taking pictures and not actually watching the mountain bikes coming towards her. This is a super dangerous place to be. If someone comes in wide on the berm or slides over the crest, they're taking her down with them. She's not technically in my way though, so I just kind of think, your funeral, and get on with my riding. I do a few loops on this little stretch, and then after maybe 4, there's a toddler, basically as young as I've ever seen someone ride a bike without training wheels, whatever age that is, and maybe 6 years old, just kind of frolicking on top of the jump. I yell, "Move out of the way!" a few times, but they don't. I swerve off the trail, come to a stop, double back, and tell them, in a tone I would describe as very stern but not scolding, that hanging out, not moving in the middle of a high-speed mountain bike trail is not only dangerous for me, but extremely dangerous for themselves. At this point, Berm Lady is jogging over, screaming, not yelling, screaming, "Do not talk to my kids like that." So I tell her, or attempt to, she's just repeating her screaming at me at this point, that I wouldn't have to talk to her kids that way if she had been keeping them safe, or had taught them how to stay safe in what is an inherently dangerous environment. At this point, she says, "I'll knock you flat." At which point I tell her I will defend myself if she attempts anything on me or my bike. She then plays the victim and says, "I can't believe you'd hit me. I can't believe you threatened me." For reasons I still don't really understand, at this point I begin again trying to explain how dangerous her kids' behavior was, not just for me, but for themselves. But she just keeps shouting, "Who do you think you are?" I say, "My name is OP," but she cuts me off with, "I don't care who you are." So I asked her, "Then why the heck do you keep asking?" She then demanded I apologize to her daughter for my language, and I told her she had lost the right to ask me to do anything and expect me to accommodate when she threatened me. She repeats her demands, and over her non-stop screaming, I attempt to tell her that I promise hearing my language is a lot less dangerous to her kid than being mowed down by a mountain bike. I swear. Something about having kids that aren't old enough for a parent to have grown to resent just a little bit turns people into psychos. Speaking of mountain bikes, have you ever ridden mountain bikes? Or any kind of bikes? Please let us know. Oh, I love mountain bikes. Am I the jerk for being mad at my husband who was going to give away $10,000 to his sister without even asking me about it? On Saturday morning, I noticed my husband was sending a lot of text messages back and forth. He's usually not much of a texter. He left the phone next to me to charge while he is in the other room. The phone kept lighting up with text messages when I decided to open it up to see what the big discussion was about. I know some couples view it as a big breach of trust to read through a significant other's phone, but my husband and I do it regularly, so this was not a huge invasion of privacy on my end. We both have nothing to hide, and it has never been an issue before. Anyway, of course I saw something on the phone that I shouldn't have that got me upset. For background, my husband is 34, I'm 32, and his sister is 31. She's in this story. Husband and I have been together for 10 years, married for the last 4 years. We are all college educated with jobs now. My husband and I each make good salaries, around $150,000 each. We own our house. We still have about $60,000 in student loans I'm working to pay off. Luckily low interest rates, so I just pay the minimum. We have about $40,000 liquid in savings, so we're doing good financially, but still need to build up more savings as we will probably try to start a family in the next 1 to 2 years and want to be prepared for an emergency and have a rainy day fund. Anyway, my husband's sister is trying to buy a 1-bedroom apartment in New York City. I saw in the text messages that my husband offered to give her $10,000 for her down payment. The money in our savings is our money. Our bank accounts are 100% combined. My husband manages 99% of the finances because I prefer not to deal with it. However, it is understood we consult each other regularly on major purchases. He did not ask me if I was okay with him giving this money to his sister. She didn't ask. He offered. I immediately confronted him, calmly, and was like, "Hey, did you tell your sister you would give her $10,000? He said yes. I asked him when he was going to tell me. He said he probably wasn't. He figured I wouldn't notice and said he didn't think I would care about the details. I said, do you think $10,000 is a detail? He said, no, that is a lot of money. I should have told you about that. Are you okay with it? I said, no, I don't think I am. Anyway, we decided in that moment not to give the money. He said he would tell his sister and she would understand. He wanted the issue to go away after that. But I'm still mad. I said this was a big breach of trust. I let him control all finances because I trust him to never, ever take advantage of my ignorance. Shouldn't you be able to trust your husband? So now, I don't have that full amount of trust I had before, and I want to open my own bank account, which frankly, I should have anyway. But am I the jerk for being totally upset and feeling betrayed about this? I grew up poor, and $10,000 is a ton of money to me. I mean, to most people, right? I am horrified he would consider gifting it away and not even telling me. Edit. Good lord, this blew up. Thank you to all who have taken the time to respond. There are a few questions being asked over and over again that I figured I could address up top. I really appreciate everyone's thoughts. We don't check each other's phones because of trust issues, but I understand why some of you think this is the case and why it signals a bigger issue. I'll try to explain. My husband and I are very close, share everything, and think nothing of picking up the other person's phone and reading a few recent text messages, especially if we're seeing what's up with the other person's family or it's a mutual friend. We do not read each other's phone with the intent of seeing if the other person is cheating or lying. We just do it because we are nosy. I'm just trying to say the fact I checked his phone wasn't a trust issue. I've picked up my mom's phone and read a few texts to see what she's talking about with my aunt, for example. Or another example, my husband is on a big group text with like 20 people in his family. I've read through this just to see what's going on with everyone. I know we should have more in savings. We're working on it. I graduated college with a very expensive monthly student loan bill. I lived in New York City for the first few years after college, spent a ton on rent, making $50,000 to $60,000 a year, and was not able to save a lot of money in my early years. New York City is expensive. Then we moved across the country. That was at least $8,000 in moving expenses. I've had jobs in the past where I received a big annual bonus at the end of the year. A lot of this cash and savings from the past was used for our wedding and a down payment on our house. Then I switched jobs and haven't had these bonuses for a few years. I also went about 4 months being unemployed between jobs where we were down to one income. We did not save much during this time. In December, we both started new jobs making a lot more money. We also refinanced our mortgage, got rid of PMI on our house, and were able to significantly reduce our monthly mortgage bill by like $600. So yes, we're going to make $300K this year, but last year it wasn't nearly this much. My goal this year was to use all my extra income from my new job to save up for an emergency/rainy day fund. I will 100% be more involved in the finances going forward. This was dumb of me. I knew it was dumb and I did it anyway. My mom told me it was dumb and I didn't listen. I've always had access to our money and accounts. I just logged in today. I just didn't monitor it regularly. He did all the bills and paid taxes. I just worked and let the money flow to our savings account. I have a hands-off approach with money in that regard. I have a decent idea of how much money we make and spend and save on an annual basis. However, when it comes to monthly expenses, credit cards, etc., I let my husband handle that. I will be more involved moving forward. In the past in our relationship, we considered my husband the one who is good with money. I am more laissez-faire, and I was the one who has been less frugal in the past. Many of you fairly pointed out it was dumb to let my husband handle everything. He never cut me out of anything. My thought process was, my husband is very good with money, and I trust him completely to handle all of our finances. I'll be more involved going forward. My father-in-law is helping my sister-in-law with a down payment on our house. I knew this, however, I didn't know my husband was also thinking he would help her with this. Regarding the money for a one-bedroom New York City apartment, she's looking at a one-bedroom apartment somewhere out in Queens for like $350,000 to $400,000. She was probably going to get like $40,000 from her father for the down payment. I think my husband just wanted to pitch in and help her out a bit more. He did feel bad about this, but he was 100% honest with me after I confronted him. I think he wanted to step in like a caring big brother, saw his dad offering money, and he wanted to help her too. I think he made the decision to give her the money impulsively. I did not immediately say we can't give his sister the money. When I confronted him, he immediately asked me if I was still okay to give the money. I did think about it and decided while we have a bit of cash right now, we need that for emergencies and are financially not in a position to be giving away $10,000. Our lives are just beginning. We are going to have kids and their college expenses and need to retire someday. I asked him if we have to give her the money now, if it was a promise and she was counting on it. He said no, absolutely not, and his sister and father would understand if he said he couldn't give the money anymore. Also, I'm due for a bonus at the end of the year, and I told him maybe in January when I find out what that amount is, we can consider helping her, but we don't know when that is going to be. Also, I did not grow up in poverty. I just grew up poorer than I am now. My mom, brother, and I grew up on my mother's teacher's salary. We always had food on the table, but money was tight, and my mom was, and is to this day, terrible with money. So I'm just scarred from that a bit, and really value the security I have today. Final edit. The first thing I did today was check our bank account. I logged in, no problem. He never cut me out of anything. I know I said he manages and controls the finances, but what I meant and should have said is that he pays the bills. I have open access to everything. All our money was there, nothing crazy happened. When I got home from work, I sat down with the husband over dinner. Told him we needed to talk through this and make sure we are on the same page. We agreed he was a moron and made new rules for why this can never happen again. Agreed we will discuss any purchase over $500, no exceptions. He listened and apologized and explained his side of the story. Maybe I'm an idiot, but it does add up. I don't think he is a nefarious liar. He has a big heart and wanted to help his sister. He was still wrong. He still messed up. but I can forgive this. Basically, yes, it was a red flag. I'll learn from this, but I don't think I need to hop off a sinking ship into a lifeboat just yet. I promised to be more active in the finances. I'll make sure he knows that I'm watching everything. He promised to make it easier for me by compiling all accounts into one place, etc. Am I the jerk for calling the police on someone who parked in my driveway? Last Saturday, our neighbors had a yard sale. There was a decent amount of people that stopped by, and they were fine parking in my neighbor's driveway. We live on a very busy street, so parking on the road is a nuisance as there is no shoulder and people tend to drive well over 35 miles per hour speed limit that is posted. To be clear, it is very obvious that this is our driveway on our property. We do not share an easement with the neighbors, so this person purposely pulled into our driveway because the neighbors was full from other people at our yard sale. The way he was parked completely blocked both of our cars in, so if we need to get out, we couldn't. About an hour into the sale, we noticed a car pull into our driveway. I asked my husband if he was expecting anyone, and he said that he wasn't, so he went outside to see what they wanted. He saw the driver, a passenger, and 2 kids get out of the car and walk over to the neighbor's yard sale. My husband called out to the driver of the car and told him he can't park there and to move his car. He told my husband that he had nowhere to park and the kids were with him and it was too dangerous to park on the street. My husband said he understood, but he needed to move the car out of our driveway. The man proceeded to argue with my husband until he finally told him to either move his car or we will call and have it towed. My husband came inside and asked me to call the non-emergency police line to see if someone could come out and ask the driver to move the car out of our driveway. An officer arrived within 10 minutes and my husband explained the situation to him. The other driver began ranting at the officer about not having a safe place to park, and the officer told him that it didn't matter, that he was on our property and he could either move the car or the officer would call to have him towed. The man started screaming at my husband and told him that if one of his kids got injured because he had to park in the road, he was going to sue us. My neighbors, the ones having the yard sale, came over and told us that we were jerks for making such a commotion over them being parked in our driveway. My husband explained that they were the ones having the yard sale, not us, and that he would have never allowed strangers to park in their driveway because it's just rude. Now my neighbors are bad-mouthing us to all of our other neighbors. Some agree that we were in the right, but the ones to the immediate right of us are now being cold to us and telling us that we are insensitive and have no sense of community. So, am I the jerk, or should I have let it go and let the man park in my driveway? ETA, people keep asking why we called the police. We called them because the driver was becoming increasingly hostile and swearing. He threatened to sue us. We would most likely have let him stay if he had just asked us first. The second he started cursing at my husband, he had to leave. We do not know him, did not know what he would do or was capable of, nor did we invite him. He was there for a neighbor's yard sale that had nothing to do with our property. Please come watch this video next, you will love it. And join as a channel member today and we'll give you a special shout out in our next video. And to have us make a special happy birthday video for you or a loved one, come visit us on Fiverr, link pinned in the comments below.